Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome. As we have been talking this morning about COVID, impact of COVID, the different data, everybody's talking about the sources of data. One of the key things, what's the biggest challenge for the current generation? What is the biggest challenge for all of us in our daily life? I summarize it as two main challenges: information overload and anxiety emerging out of that. All of you, even while watching this, have your smartphones on, have multiple notifications coming, replying from one hand or two hands to different things. There is so much information, 10 social media apps, 10 video streaming app, audio streaming app, every time notifications, so much information overload, so much anxiety. I need to reply this, I need to see how they reacted, how that reacted, that friend put this picture. And in midst of all of this, technology has to come to solve this. If nobody wakes up in the morning say, I want a credit card today, I want this company brand card, I want that company insurance. Nobody wakes up in the morning asking for that. People want something which helps them improve the quality of their life, which creates simplicity in their life. So the way I look at it is, broadly, the fintech, insurtech industry has been trying to solve these two core problems in the lives of people: information overload and anxiety. 5 years ago, when taxi companies started to have a card on file that you could just drop off at the destination and walk out, and the payment will be taken care of. You don't need to think about paying. You don't need to worry about collecting change. It was contextual. The payments became contextual. Everything, whether you're buying online, whether it's taxi, it became contextual and it became invisible. And that created a whole new generation of innovation. What I feel now is that now is the time, and specifically what COVID has done is it has created so much uncertainty in the minds of people. It has created so much panic. It has created so much stress in the lives of people that it sets the ground for what we are saying as contextual insurance, where people do not need to think about it. They are doing their daily needs, daily lifestyles on the digital platforms. They are engaged with them and it's there. So the best insurance, I say, is the one which is not visible. It gives you the risk management, it gives you the peace of mind, and yet it's just part of the process. And who are the people who would play on this? The platforms, the insurance companies, and the third party partners to solve this, to enable this, whether these are system integrators, whether these are specific tech solution companies which are creating pay-per-use, usage-based, very thin micro product, or even something as basic as creating a group cover and splicing this in the smaller things and giving it to people to use so that people can focus on their core life while technology creates a layer for them to achieve that peace of mind. So the whole premise of this next generation of insurance is achieve peace of mind by solving anxiety and information overload. And what we are looking at is we want to go through some of the examples of case studies of how some companies are looking at it and what are the key drivers for this. The reason why a lot of this is needed is because it's event driven. There is some action happening, because even if we give notifications to people for, okay, you are traveling, that's still an action. Because now people's smartphones are connected and most countries are using some kind of smartphone tracking because of COVID. Singapore, we call it trace together, other countries have their own. That event driven and connecting that to, it comes in real time. You cannot have a scenario where customer takes 2 days to get a quote and third day, by that time already over. We are talking seconds. It's like this: I press something on my video streaming app, if the video doesn't start in 20 seconds, game over. If the song doesn't start in 10 seconds, game over. And which is why the idea of how do you pre-underwrite, how do you pre-populate slabs and variables so that it's almost near real time, and rest of the processes can follow. So that event contextualized, real time, And the cost becomes low because now you do not have channel intermediaries, you do not have complex processes, you have as limited human intervention as possible, so you can scale up, you can almost scale infinitely. And it's very digital because the part is you are embedding it into the digital journeys, digital experiences in their daily lives, so that people use it, it gives them the solution without they worrying, thinking, and going through that. Now we look at some of the scenarios. Travel is beautiful example of contextual insurance. And travel is not just about my flight got cancelled. People are now looking at the government came in and said nobody can fly. Your traditional policy won't even cover. One fun example I saw for travel was Airbnb insurance. Some university kids told me that their biggest nervousness, frustration was they are flying to Laos for vacation, and one day before, Airbnb host cancel. No travel insurance traditionally would cover it. And the customer there now is not looking at give me money. He said, what do I do with money? I'm already there with my friend. Can you find me a 3-star place to stay and not be loitering around on the streets of Laos to hide somewhere in the night? So people are saying, can you take my anxiety away? It is not just a cash transaction. Can you take my anxiety away? Medical, for example, and a lot of my friends before talked about telemedicine and stuff. People, if they diagnose something or they're feeling something, they want an instant answer. They cannot afford, their mind does not afford that they have to wait for 8 days or 6 days to get an appointment and then wait in the queue, 45 minutes waiting. Like 45 minutes, I don't even wait for a train for 45 minutes in my life. 45 minutes wait is a lifetime for the current generation. So, which is why a lot of this is very lifestyle driven, because all of the platforms they see. Electronics, for example, on a fun example I saw recently was people talking about device insurance, obsolete insurance. A very famous smartphone company, every 1 year they will change their adapter, sometimes they will change their charger, sometimes they will change their headphone, and then people are left with all of these accessories which do not work with the new model of this new phone from the company. And that's an anxiety. And the responsibility of the insurance industry is to say, okay, this is your anxiety. Every anxiety is a kind of risk. Can we create solutions to help you? E-commerce, just now, Amazon came up with this product where even third-party sellers will be able to offer insurance for returns and partner with a large broker. And the idea was that take the uncertainty out, take the fear, nervousness out of buying from third-party sellers on these large platforms. And that part where the focus is not on a product, focus is on a consumer, and then you stitch it from there. That how do we structure a product and solution to solve that nervousness, uncertainty. Entertainment is beautiful example. The amount of movies which got cancelled, movie screenings in last 18 months, concerts which got cancelled. People are looking for, can you just cover for that? Can you cover me for that? And again, don't give me the ticket back. Don't give me the money of the ticket back. What will I do with it? Can you help me buy a booking into the next available slot? Can you show me an option to get the experience back? So the next generation of the contextual insurance is beyond cash. Can you recreate that experience? Can you give me a shot at getting back into the game? Not sitting outside the game with an additional card to play with, but get me back into the game. That is the future for where I see contextual insurance playing from that perspective. If you look at examples, so Toffee is an example from India, and they created some really interesting products. During the time of, so they wanted to create a health insurance product, Contextual, and very beautiful social marketing campaign saying a bunch of roses cost same as 1 year of breast cancer insurance. Give a wishes which lasts a year, not a week. Instead of this, buy this for your loved one. Because people are always open to spend that for their loved ones, maybe instead of buying it for themselves. The way to package a traditional product and take all the not necessary riders out and bring them on the checkout. So when a Valentine's Day is happening, or a Mother's Day or a Sister's Day is happening, you create that as a gift product. along with the rest of the celebrations and celebrating products from that perspective. That is an example of like very package driven. I even saw somebody in similar to them create a smoker insurance where the beauty of the product was you take all the riders out of health insurance, you only give a lung cancer and heart attack because nobody breaks a bone by smoking a cigarette. And to activate it, so I can gift it to you on your birthday, but to activate it, you have to post it on your Facebook wall. Then it gets activated and they say, I will try to reduce the amount of cigarettes. So there is a social nudge and then providing that protection, and there's a gift element. So how do you bring those together where it's embedded in the lives of customers? That is the kind of innovation we're seeing from the players. And it creates a huge opportunity for marketeers to think, for product people to think, for insurers to think, and for platforms. So we are looking at a new world where we have these tools at our disposal, and how do we play with them, how do we create products for them is what creates real opportunity. Moonshot is again a similar product and similar capability example from France. Very different market from that perspective. But people are looking at, as I mentioned, cancellation of event tickets. The game is not exciting enough. In China, some of the related products have been regarding breaking of a marriage insurance, because people make a lot of bookings and it's expensive and sometimes things don't work out. Then how do you protect for the downside from that? And that product became valuable for a lot of young couples because the cost of wedding was so big expense for them. And similar products, which see how the emerging lifestyle is playing. People are worried about returning the e-commerce products. People are willing to pay extra if they can get a free return insurance for the stuff they're buying from overseas platforms. Local platforms will always offer it mostly, but overseas platforms and ability to fractionalize it, price it, and giving it as a wrapper, so that it's a more of an add-on in the traditional insurance language, but it is part of the purchase cycle. And you don't have to go anywhere outside the cycle to get this. Another example is Digit is a huge product platform in India, and they have sold millions of policies in India by embedding in ride hailing, by embedding in all these lifestyle products. And in India, the COVID product became huge because they were giving, I think, once 1.5 or 2 cent per day COVID cover. And that could be purchased from literally any wallet or any kind of app from that perspective. And the way they have investors, their investors, if you look at Digit and Acco, which are the two main players, they have e-commerce companies, ride-hailing companies as their investors. And the real value is now when you have those people as investors, they bring you into the same platforms to embed you into those experiences. You have all the data, you have the payment instrument is already tied for collecting the premiums as well as dispersal of any claims. The authentication that whether that incident happened comes from the platform. So it becomes, as in the current language, this is autonomous machine. The process becomes autonomous without human intervention needed in most cases. And that power of having end-to-end platform connectivity is something which is unique, which creates unprecedented opportunities to play with new use cases. And if we go back to the examples which we talked about just now, most of these are not revolutionary products which never existed before. The premise is looking at what's the context. How do you look at asking people, what are the 5 things you're worried about in your life? What are the things which bring nervousness to you? Insurance was born as a risk management tool, risk sharing. How do people share risk? That's the core. The current generation's risks have evolved. They're the things which they perceive and consider as risk. Cyberbullying is a risk for the current. Being trolled on a social media and being harassed on social media is a risk. And if you look at most insurance players would not have a solution off the shelf for that. The real idea is, if you look at that, and that's a contextual play, We see social influencers creating live streaming related products. Would be huge example of contextual insurance. You're buying from people you heard of, but you don't have a company to go after. Can you create an e-commerce related buying, selling, shipping protection along that? And the more seamless, the more embedded, the more invisible it becomes, the more successful it becomes from that perspective for contextual insurance per se. I was just looking through some of the questions which came in. Are there any, how to say, do the platforms become too powerful, and are there any guardrails from that perspective? See, absolutely. I mean, as we try to create more and more of these products, there would be some challenges sometimes. And the key idea is to create those solutions and let customers decide if it's right for them. And sometimes what happens is you have to anticipate the demands of customers, their needs, their aspirations of the customers. I'll give another example: nomad employees. A lot of companies have staff which is living overseas or working for them part-time, working through the social platforms from which you hire people for 1 week, 2 weeks. How do you create benefits for them? The new generation of employee benefits, which is transactional for the short term, can you create that as contextual from the so-called gig economy platforms? So that's an example. So the real value of that is defining what's the right place and let the customers decide if this is right, because there are all of these emerging places where you do not have clarity on who owns what data. So the premise is creating their products there, and let the customers decide if it's right for them. And while, of course, the data doesn't leave, there is privacy and stuff is protected, but to create a leap of faith for the customers and for the manufacturers to believe that the next generation of products will be nothing like those of previous generation. I'm happy to take any questions from anybody, but broadly, that was the context on the way we were looking at how contextual insurance will be key part of the life, and the next generation will see 100 new products coming out of the current generation asking for different needs and different aspirations.